Blended Podcasts. Brought to you by Blended Audio.
Exploring the unexplained,
breaking down barriers,
putting the macabre under the microscope,
dissecting the disturbing,
seeking out the sinister,
bringing you the jinkies and the jump scares.
Lights, camera, caution. Curses ahead. Hey guys, welcome back to Freaky Friday with Devin and Megan.
Hello.
And this week we are going to be looking, well, since we're film students, this is kind of relevant for us.
Yeah.
Because we know the back workings of films and sets. And I don't know about you, but even theatre for me.
Yeah, I did theatre for a while. A lot of like Amdram stuff.
Exactly.
Which is actually, we're going to dive into a topic now. It's actually where I first heard about the thing we're going to discuss.
Oh, okay. I didn't until very recently. But I mean, yeah, creating cinematic masterpieces, it's a really intense process as is.
Yeah, it's difficult without it being cursed.
Exactly.
You might even argue that every film set is cursed.
I have a very strong belief in that. Like we went to film school, we know the whole on-set process. That is tedious, that is drilling, that is just... I don't miss it.
Yeah, if you're going into the industry, let's just say something will go wrong. Every set you're
fail on every set.
Yeah, there will be at least one just complete screw up that throws you off.
And everyone will be scrambling around. But yeah, so we're not talking about our normal everyday lives. We're going to be talking about moments where, and I have to say, a lot of it focuses around horror-themed things. I'm just saying the evidence is there. We shouldn't be messing with this stuff.
But I love horror.
Putting it out there and it's coming back and biting us in the butt.
But I love horror, and a world without horror is not a world I want to live in.
Well, anyway, productions that have taken a nasty turn in the most unexpected ways. I know there are countless films which we'll dive into on this, but I think one of the most well-known instances of this is actually... Well, you see, now I'm kind of nervous to say it.
We're not in a
We're not
theater.
back, okay.
Yeah.
Is The Curse of Macbeth.
Yeah, I think people even call it like the cursed play.
Exactly,
as well.
they do. It is called the cursed play.
And also goes by the name the Scottish play.
And that's because actors will really avidly avoid saying the name for fear of the curse of Macbeth.
Yeah, if you're a theatre kid, you know to just stay away from mentioning this production.
In fact, if an actor accidentally speaks the name Macbeth in the theatre prior to one of their performances, then they are required to leave the room and perform this ritual where they've got to spin around in a circle 3 times and spit and then like wait for permission.
You have to knock on the door.
Knock on the door and then wait for permission.
To be let back in.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't even think you have to be performing Macbeth to not say it in the theatre.
Yes, as long as you're in the theatre, just don't avoid it.
And that's what happens. I was working on some theatre piece and talking to the stage manager, and he said something about the Scottish play, and I was like, what on earth is the Scottish play? That is a very broad name. And he explained the thing to me without saying it. Macbeth.
Oh, props to them. But I know theatre people have a lot of their superstitions, like break a leg, and they've got quite a bit.
Oh, I read a thing recently or heard a thing recently about the whole break a leg thing, and I don't know how true it is, but apparently break a leg is so that you get into the cast. Because if you break a bone, you get a cast.
That is so cute. That is a pun, and it's so cute, and I love it.
I don't know if that's where it originated, but that's what
I've heard. I can't remember now what I've heard, but it definitely wasn't that.
Yeah, I just said something like,
that's so cute.
You say break a leg so that the person ends up in
a
the cast.
I love it. Oh, theatre people are so creative.
I know. But, yeah, so just going back to the whole Macbeth thing, it's apparently just really bad luck, and you can expect the worst if you dare to utter Macbeth.
Well, people say it's because they believe Shakespeare actually, the 3 sisters in the play, the 3 witches, the incantations that they chant, people believe that Shakespeare took actual black magic incantations, and that is what they're chanting, and that's what has cursed the whole play.
Yeah, I know that I did hear something like that where they said it's not just saying the name Macbeth that's no-go, but apparently to quote any line from the play, and
Exactly.
especially the witch's incantation,
exactly.
is no bueno. Like, you do not.
And I think also what attributed to all of this was that the actor who first played Lady Macbeth died during the first play's production.
That was in like 1606 or
Yeah.
something, yeah. And they apparently, rumor, they would use real daggers and stuff in the play in the early days.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Which is just, well, you are asking for trouble.
Exactly.
And especially because I don't know if we've mentioned it before, but when I was in film school, I did production design and managed props and stuff. And actors have, I'm singling you out, actors. You have a nasty habit of playing with props when you shouldn't.
They really do.
So,
Well, I mean, more recently, I was on a really big production out at the Cape Town Film Studios a year or two ago. And we lived out there on set and that, and it was a very action-packed dated piece. So there were knives and daggers and things, and the safety measurements around every shoot, it's insane. There were days where I'm like, wow, this is overkill. But I think we're soon about to go into why we have developed these safety precautions.
I think, you also don't want any lawsuits your way, so better safe than sorry. Like,
and there have
rather
been
go
some
overboard.
nasty accidents before these lessons were learned.
Yeah. But going back to Macbeth for a second, we have this horrible habit of digressing. Probably shouldn't be hosting a podcast if we have a horrible habit of digressing, but anyway.
It's the way we are. We keep up with each other's minds. We're in each other's minds so much. You can suddenly blurt out anything, and I know where you are, and just pick up from there and go.
I can't turn it off. It's who I am. But yeah, so basically a lot of the Macbeth productions that have gone on throughout the years, if you break one of the rules, you know, these productions have been played by like accidents, actors falling off stage, mysterious deaths.
I know there was this one incident where Macbeth and Macduff got into a fight. Well, you know, they meant to. And there were these shields taped to their arms. And Macbeth like did this really violent motion with his arm, and it sort of launched his shield off of his arm, and it went spinning towards Macduff, who ducked down, and the shield like came to rest just before hitting two nuns in the front row of the audience.
So not even the audience is safe,
Exactly.
basically. But I know that there was another, I think it was a riot in 1849, and it was due to a rivalry between an American actor named Edward Forrest and an English actor named William Charles Macready. And they were basically both playing Macbeth in opposing productions. I don't know what started the riot, but there was a riot that ended up with over 20 deaths and 100
Good
injuries.
grief.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the play's getting a little too real there.
Yeah, I have no interest in acting in theatre, but like, if anyone ever offered me a role in Macbeth, I'd be like, you know, maybe not.
Give it a second thought.
Maybe not for me.
But theatre productions, like I said, aren't the only ones where these incidents have occurred. There have been many, and I'm going to say this again, horror film sets
Yay.
where things have gone terribly wrong. And I say it again and again, we should not be messing with these things. This is just why. It's right here. Do not create horrors.
Maybe I'm jumping into this topic a bit soon with regards to like horror movies that are supposedly cursed in inverted commas. I think a lot of the time is marketing, and very clever marketing.
I've had that thought as well, and I mean, you have to look at cases where, like, with the It movies, people like forcefully go and create scenarios where like the clown scenario, I think, showing up all over the places, scaring people to promote it.
Yeah.
I think there have been many cases where it's created, but then there are also the bizarre cases where really messed up things happen.
Yeah. I mean, even to the point where, to this day, I think it's one of the most brilliant marketing schemes ever, was when Blair Witch came out. They obviously marketed, it was found footage, marketed it as a real, true event. To the point where I believe they even had a website with missing posters of the three characters, claiming that they'd gone into the forest,
Ooh,
gone
people
missing.
suck this stuff up. Yeah, well done to that, actually.
I think I might have even mentioned it in a previous episode. I love the Blair Witch, so I know all the fun facts. But Yeah, I think maybe the most well-known cursed film set, at least in my opinion, is probably The Exorcist.
Yeah, I do agree with you. There's a handful, but The Exorcist definitely makes it onto the top of that list.
And I think it was also, in part, a big thing because The Exorcist was so outrageous for its time.
It really was, and I mean, yeah, we've covered that whole story before. We know how intense it was, and
The true story of what The Exorcist was based off
exactly,
of.
and to take that and actually recreate those moments and things, you are delving into some really dark stuff.
Yeah.
So this is the thing I couldn't figure out. I was like, because I did very much pick up when doing all the research for this topic that all these cursed theaters, or cursed productions are horrors. So I went along that line. I thought, I was like, okay, is this being put on just to create more hype around it?
Yeah.
Or is it because people are dwelling in things they shouldn't be, maybe, or making light of really, really hectic events that happened?
Another thing that I thought is maybe, you know, because it's a horror film, maybe it's just like really unlucky coincidence made scarier by the fact that
Exactly,
it comes from a
because you
horror
like
film.
every day you're in that environment having to get into that tone and reenact these really scary events. So definitely that.
Yeah.
I'm also a person who believes that the power of thought is a really, really powerful thing.
Yeah.
And what you sort of think and put out there can come back to you.
And the energy that you surround yourself with daily obviously has an effect on your personal life.
Exactly.
So I think to be in that
With
space.
everyone around you in that space. And I mean, I don't know if any of you have ever actually sat and watched the credits of a movie, which we all really kind of hope you do.
Yeah.
Even though we know you don't. The amount of people on any one production
Yeah.
is crazy. There are so many people there, and also focused on just this one concept and idea. So I definitely think that might play a part in all of this.
Yeah. But I mean, once again, we've digressed slightly. So
What we do, Devin.
yeah, so let's like dive
Don't
into
stifle us.
let's dive into some of the things that happened on the set of The Exorcist. And I think the first big thing was that I don't know if not all of our listeners will have watched The Exorcist, but a lot of the action took place in a house. So they built an entire set for this house, and I don't think it was very long into production, the set caught fire
Yes, out of nowhere.
and destroyed the entire
Entire set.
McNeil home.
Except
Yeah, except
for
the bedroom.
of Regan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was where all the I think in the film, all the
events
exorcisms took place
It
in the
is.
room. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that one threw them all quite a bit. And the actresses would say they had this constant feeling of anxiety that followed them everywhere, to the extent that they wouldn't take their scripts home. They would
wow.
leave them on set just to try and break away from all of that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that at all. But it was odd, especially when I came across the fact about the fire. It said that apparently director William Friedkin blamed the incident on a winged creature with talons. It was a bird.
What?
It was a bird that flew into an electrical box, if I'm not mistaken. But that was not in the little article that I read, just this winged creature with talons, and I was like, okay. And then
See,
later
that's
on...
stretching things a bit there.
Yeah, later on I read it was
now
a
you're
bird.
trying to sell it.
But yeah, so it flew into like a circuit box and caused the fire, and there was like a 2-week delay with filming.
I think surrounding the entire film, there were about 9 deaths
Yeah.
between the cast and crew.
Yeah. But also, just before we dive off of that topic, after they rebuilt the set, I believe, they the whole set was set up, and then they realized that the sprinkler system was broken, which caused another delay. Because obviously if there was going to be another fire,
Exactly,
they
they
needed
needed the
sprinklers.
sprinklers there.
But yeah,
Yeah, you see, this is the first thing that would drive me off of a set. Not that you would ever get me on a horror set, but yes.
are you serious?
The evidence is right here in front of us. Just listen to the stories we're about to tell, Evan.
True. Just be selective about the horror films you pick.
Well, as we said before, it's sometimes not only the cast and crew that get affected, it's audiences. I know that on the first release of the film, many audiences, it affected them so strongly that paramedics were rushed into several of the screenings because people would faint.
As far as I know, there was one woman who fainted and actually broke her jaw.
Yeah, because she hit the seat in front of her.
And then still tried to sue Warner Brothers.
Exactly.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but okay. I don't know, it's difficult. I think it's difficult to look at The Exorcist now, watch it now, and understand how actually terrifying it was when it first came out. Because, I mean...
We've progressed so far from... It's any horror... Of those old school horror movies. Anything that they would have portrayed back then, which was, like, groundbreaking and really scary, today we'll scoff at.
Yeah.
Because it's hardly
we're so
anything.
desensitized.
I mean, we create some really messed up things today.
Yeah.
And the way we'll show it on screen is just, whoa.
I will say, because I actually waited a while to watch The Exorcist. I wasn't one of those kids that, like, rented it when I was 7 and watched it behind my mom's back. I waited, I think I was probably about 16 or 18 when I watched it for the first time. And although it didn't actively scare me, there were scenes that I could look at and be like, okay, that I can imagine that was super dodgy back in the day, and I can understand, you know, how terrifying it must have been.
Exactly. It's like things, I mean, I don't see how they can take it further, but I mean, probably things that we think are already scary today, people in the future will be like, oh, that's nothing.
Yeah, like, whatever. But I think, to me, because I've obviously, being a horror junkie, I already knew a lot of these facts, but I think one of the most terrifying ones to me was that there's a scene in the film where I think Reagan's tied to the bed. I think she's tied. And the bed starts shaking and, like, moving up and down. And it was obviously on a rig or whatever to do that. But Linda Blair, who played Reagan, something happened and she was in excruciating pain. And obviously with the bed moving, it was just putting her through more pain, and she was screaming like that she wanted to be released, and they thought it was just her acting.
Oh, that's really weird, because there's another incident. I don't know that one, but I know the one where she apparently had a mental breakdown, and in the scene where she's attacking her mother on screen, she actually threw her mother across the room, and it resulted in a permanent injury.
Yeah.
So when her mother's lying on the floor screaming, it's because she actually got
in pain.
a spinal like a permanent spinal injury from that.
And I think she was bedridden for a while during production.
Because of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that take is actually used in the film because the screaming was so real. I actually think that wouldn't go down today. From what I understand, if something's shot where an injury or incident actually occurred, it becomes illegal, if I'm not mistaken.
But what about that scene in Django where Leo DiCaprio cut his hand open and they just went with it?
You're right. Maybe minor
I don't know, maybe
things.
it's like you have to get permission for it or something. I don't know. But yeah, so I believe Ellen Burstyn, who played Reagan's mother, was injured, and then Reagan herself was also injured, obviously not to the same degree, but was also in a severe amount of pain during one of the filmings. And yeah, it's terrifying to me.
Also, apparently, during one of the screenings of the movie, there was a church across the street which was struck by lightning twice.
What? That is a sign.
That's what I'm saying. The signs are there.
But I mean, this film actually took, I think, over a year to complete, all in all.
Well, that's quite usual for a film.
No, but I mean, I think they hadn't planned on it being that long, but with all of the setbacks and occurrences, it ended up being a year long.
Yeah, well, like you said, the delays with the fire and that, I mean, that was 6-week delays at a time.
Yeah.
I can see that easily happening.
But yeah, like you said earlier, there were a few deaths. Actors Jack McGowan, and Vasiliki Maliaro.
Ooh, I like the accent.
I tried my best. But they both died while the film was in post-production. And the weird thing about their deaths is that their characters actually died in the film.
Yeah.
So about 2 weeks after or whatever.
I remember that.
They both died. Linda Blair's grandfather passed away during the film. Max von Sydow's brother, who died on Max's first day of shooting.
I remember that as well.
The son of Jason Miller, who played Father Damien Karras, was nearly killed when a motorcycle hit him. And I think that might have also been on the first day
I
of
think so,
production.
yes. I remember there were the two that was on the first day of production.
Yeah.
Props to the people for going back.
And then in 1987, there was an actress named Mercedes McCambridge, I believe. And she did the demonic voice of Pazuzu, who was the demon in the film. And she wasn't directly involved, but there was a tragedy with her involving her son, and he apparently murdered his wife and children, and then committed
domestic
suicide.
violence, I remember that.
So yeah, I don't think she was even ever on set. She just recorded the voices. And
If you're going in to record voices of demons, you're asking for bad juju.
yeah, I don't know how true it is, but I feel like I read an article. I don't have it here, but years ago I feel like I read an article where Mercedes McCambridge, who voiced Pazuzu, apparently had a problem with drugs and alcohol, maybe just alcohol. And then also while recording, she started drinking again and smoking again to get her voice super gravelly and scary.
Oh, this is like method acting kind of stuff.
Yeah, so she fell back into old habits and very destructive habits while doing the voice as well. So it's another fun little exorcist fact. And I know that in New York, one of the carpenters accidentally cut off his thumb.
What?
One of the lighting technicians lost a toe. And then on the location trip to Iraq, because there's a scene in the beginning, I believe, it was delayed until the spring, which is supposed to be like relatively cool. And it was changed to July, which is the hottest part of the summer, where the temperature was like 130 degrees and higher. Obviously Fahrenheit. But out of the 18-man crew that was sent there, Friedkin lost the service of 9 of them. And that was either due to dysentery or sunstroke. And then they had this sort of bronze statue that they used to represent Pazuzu. And it was packed in this crate and then lost in the air shipment on the way to Iraq from Los Angeles. And I think it had ended up in Hong Kong or something.
You see, now this is where you start questioning things about being coincidences.
Yeah.
I've been on several film sets, and yes, there are things that go wrong here and there, but to this extent.
But I suppose the thing is, obviously at this point when all of the stuff has gone wrong, you realize like something's not right, but you've invested so much time and so much money that you can't drop it.
You will see, if you're ever on a film set, to come hell or high water, you will continue to shoot until it is done, because way too much time and effort and money goes into these things.
And like you said, so many people are involved as well. It's not just like 1 or 2 people losing work, it's hundreds.
That does also create another point, however. You have this amount of people involved in one thing. It's not unlikely for things to happen to a lot of people, just with the vast amount of people on any set.
But and like I said earlier, I think when you're dealing with a specific kind of content, it sort of just makes everything a lot scarier. And another thing that I came across when I was researching that I've never actually heard before is that the director was actually in possession of a tape of an exorcism that had actually taken place on a 14-year-old child. I don't know if it was a boy or a girl.
Do they actually record that stuff?
I think sometimes just to like archive it, but I can't remember how he came to have that tape.
Or film people, each department does research that. Like, I've witnessed things where it's like bizarre. These people, if they need research for a film, if you need research for anything, go to a filmmaker, because we do our research like you cannot believe.
But the thing is, with this tape, he had originally planned to actually incorporate it into the final mix of the film. So to have this like child screams and like the whole exorcism just planted throughout the film, and apparently he didn't end up using it.
That's got to cause a lot of legal issues.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as far as I know, he had the tape legally, but he didn't end up using it in the film, but he admitted to using it as inspiration for some of the sounds incorporated into the film, which is still pretty scary.
Like I said, we do our research.
Yeah.
Another really horrifying film set, and I mean this one's really notoriously known, is Poltergeist.
Yeah.
And I think horror movies with religious overtones are notoriously haunted or cursed. And they say that one fact that attributed to the curse on the Poltergeist set was the fact that they used real skeletons.
Yes, I did hear that.
That is messed up. I'm sorry, but that is so messed up.
Props department's got to do what it's got to do, man.
Well, that's apparently the thing. It was cheaper to get real skeletons than for them to use plastic ones in the pool.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
As someone who's done props and stuff, I can't imagine myself being comfortable doing that.
Well,
and
they didn't tell the actors.
Well, that's what I was going to say. They didn't tell anyone, and I think that in itself is so skeevy.
That's really not right.
Because that's the thing, if you, say, as the prop master or whatever, are happy to use real skeletons, you should be at least consulting with the people that are going to be interacting with these props.
Exactly. You have the right to know something like that.
Yeah. It's skeevy on the same level that I find it's skeevy to do investigations in graveyards, but anyway.
Yeah, I agree with you there. But also on the set, the sheer number of like untimely deaths of people was really staggering. I know Heather O'Rourke,
Rourke? I don't know.
who was a child actress who appeared in Poltergeist, and she died at 12 years old.
And if I recall, her death was pretty tragic.
It was really, from what I know,
I mean,
it was
any
really
child death
sudden.
any child death is tragic, but
from what I know, it was really sudden, and it was from an undiagnosed illness.
oh,
What did you hear?
never mind.
No, from your reaction, you heard something else.
No, I don't. It's quite a bold claim. I don't know. I haven't researched that for this episode, but I'm so sure I heard that she was killed by her father.
Good
That
grief.
she and her brother were killed by their father.
That's dark.
I might be horribly wrong, so please don't take my word for it. Like I said, it's a very bold claim.
From what I've seen, it was really sudden, and a lot of the things claim that she fell ill and was either misdiagnosed or it was undiagnosed.
Like I said, don't take my word for it, I could be wrong.
Another thing, and this one just strikes me down to my core, is there was a mechanical clown that they used on set.
Yeah.
And that malfunctioned and actually strangled the actor Oliver Robbins.
Oh wow, okay, I didn't know that.
So in the scene where he's really performing and like struggling and like trying to get breath, that's because that was actually happening and he was actually being strangled by a mechanical clown gone nuts.
That is my nightmare.
Exactly, that is mine too.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest, I just looked it up. I looked up Heather O'Rourke's death, and you are 100% right. I don't know where I got that story from. I don't know, maybe it's part of another production or something, but I don't know where I came up with that. Anyway,
Well, there was
as
also
you were.
the actress Dominique Dunn, Dune, and she played Donna Freeman. She died at 23. That's younger than I am right now, just by the way. And
Don't give our ages away.
and that's because she was murdered by her abusive ex-boyfriend.
You know what? That might be what I was getting confused with.
Okay.
But yeah, on that note, it's probably about time that we wrapped up. But yeah, I feel like we say this every time. There's so much more out there.
Well, we can be specific. Like, if you want to see some really messed up stories coming from set, you can go and look at things like Annabelle. That was definitely one of them. The Conjuring. There's a movie called The Crow. Some really messed up things happened on that.
Why did I not think of The Crow?
Rosemary's Baby is another one. There are tons. I feel you can just probably go look up any horror movie, and there's going to be weird things happening on set, but that's just my opinion.
I'm still upset about The Crow. I would have loved to talk about The Crow. I love that movie.
Well, maybe we can come back to this, because like I said, there are a lot of movies where things went really badly wrong. There was another movie, The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Oh, I didn't know that one had its issues.
I mean, we're even talking about dating back to the first Wizard of Oz movie.
Yeah.
That had
there's
weird things happening.
A lot of creepy stuff. So yeah.
This is definitely something we can come back to. But yeah, we're going to wrap this up for today.
If it is something that you would like to hear about again, you can let us know on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, all that jazz. So drop us a comment if you're keen to hear more about that. But yeah, thank you for joining us.
And next week, we'll take you on a nice scary tale of our own and look at the effects of urban legends on people. So yeah, drop in with that and we'll see you there.
Freaky Fridays, hosted by Devin Beatty
and Megan Portnoy, and produced with the generous assistance of Janu Blau
and Blended Podcasts. Brought to you by Blended Audio.